Boom, and we're live. Good afternoon, Chris.
Good afternoon. Good,
All right.
Good Monday.
Yeah, good Monday. So I am super excited because we have Carlos here. Carlos Diaz.
Los.
Good Monday, people.
Good Monday. So I'm excited. We have some construction in the background, but we're renovating the gym here. But Carlos, I'm happy you're here because I've seen you multiple times, but we've never gotten to sit down and actually talk.
No, we have not. It's very.
It's always passing in the night.
It's always in passings or a training session or a little talk here and there, but never got a chance to really chit chat and shoot the breeze.
and I know that like the only thing I know about you is
that I'm handsome and
Yeah,
super smart.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Besides that, and the best referee I know
ever.
and the best ever is that you were down. You met Paul back in the day, back when he was training at Coconut Creek under Liborio.
Or back when
I
he was
actually
fighting.
met Paul
Yeah, tell he's not
Yeah,
here.
he's not here. Go ahead. Go.
At a strip club.
before he got his. Let me put it like this: before he got his first black belt.
Okay. Well, not now.
Elaborate. Hang on. Is this sacred? Are we allowed to talk about
And
it?
I don't know. You're gonna have to ask Paul about that. But
This is the guest we've been waiting for.
but you know what? I've known Paul since late '90s probably.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh.
So he used to come down. And actually before he used to come down to Fort Lauderdale area and train down at ATT. I knew Dean through the MMA scene in the state. And I actually refereed one of Paul's grappling matches at a tournament that, oh my gosh, Ross Kelly in Lakeland. Yeah, okay, so I got it right. Somebody hollered in the back that he did an event together with Jamie Levine, and I refereed that event. And it's the first time I saw Paul.
Grappling or MMA?
It was just grappling at
Okay.
the time.
Right.
And then I went to corner some guys at another MMA event when the Silver Spurs in Kissimmee was dirt and hay.
Oh my
no.
god.
But it was a farm basically out there.
Yeah.
No,
Yes,
I mean it was
sir.
a rodeo. Like
It was
purely
a
for
rodeo
rodeos,
grounds.
yeah.
That's right. It was called the Silver Spurs Rodeo Grounds,
Yeah.
not a.
So they
Not-
have,
not
like,
arena,
They have
yeah.
rodeos, but they have like county fairs there and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean like Kissimmee's like cowboys and stuff.
Yeah,
so-
I get that. No, I mean I was in Florida. I mean I've been in Florida in the '90s, and I remember that whole I-4 Carter was nothing, and
Yeah,
now
I
it's
mean,
like
Well, Kissimmee now is called Puerto Rico second floor, but
Is it really? A lot of Coors Light out there. A lot of Coors Light.
So. Let's go start back at the beginning. So how did you get into jiu-jitsu
Yeah,
and combat
what's your-
sports? Because I don't know your background on
right. So I got into combat. My mother got me into combat sports when I was really young. I started judo when I was probably 3-4 years old.
Oh
that.
my
And
goodness.
where did you grow up?
That's a good age.
Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico. Okay.
And I did boxing for some time. I did a lot of judo. I actually qualified to go to the Junior Pan Americans.
Okay.
Really? So how long did you train judo?
Oh, geez. If I tell you how long I've been training judo, and I already told you that I started when I was 3 or 4, I'll be dating myself, and that's a lot of moons, man.
Oh.
No, but, I stopped for a long time. Then I did judo when I was in the Marine Corps. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I started looking for something to do, martial arts related.
So you're like in your mid-20s at this point?
At this point, I was, in my mid-20s.
Okay.
And my judo at that time was on and off. I was very consistent in my late teens until I moved out of Puerto Rico. And then I stopped for several years. I did some when I was in the Marines. Then I stopped for some time. And then one time I was at a gym, at a regular fitness gym. And I saw a guy with a Carlson Gracie t-shirt. And he happens to be the general manager at American Top Team today. His name is Richie Guerriero. Everybody calls him Puma.
Oh, Puma.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was the one that I asked. And I asked, hey, man, where do you train at? And he goes, well, I train with Conan Silveda down in South Beach.
Oh.
This is 95, 96-ish. No, it had to be 96 for sure.
Now, were you aware of like
Yeah, it was
jiu-jitsu
like-
and
Yes,
MMA at
I
this time?
did, because my first experience with jiu-jitsu was UFC 3.
Okay, so
Okay.
you're already following it at that
Right.
point. Okay.
And UFC 3 was in North Carolina. And
Is
a
that
couple
Shamrock
of us.
Severn?
No, that was
No.
Steve Jenham won.
Yes, Steve Jenham.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the guy that is like, if you're gonna come on, come on. Right?
No. Steve Jennings was the alternate who won because Chemo
got injured.
No. Hoist beat Chemo.
Man,
and
I
Hoist threw in the
was
towel.
like 3 sheets to the wind back then, so I really don't remember half the event.
Yeah.
But I do remember this tall, lanky dude, and he wore a gi. And again, I didn't know what jiu-jitsu was back then, but I knew he wore a gi, so I knew judo, and I was like, that's a judoka. That dude is badass. You see, I told you guys, we were the freaking best. And I was inebriated. And but when I got out, when I asked Richie, he told me how I trained at Kona Silvera, and I was South Beach from where I lived. I lived in Fort Lauderdale area. It's a good hour away. And he's all like, well, there's a guy named Pablo Popovitch.
Okay.
Oh,
in
man,
Pembroke
all the
Park.
names.
Oh, my
He's
gosh.
dropping all the names.
Well, here the problem is back then,
Nobody
there
knew
was
who they
only
were.
a handful of people. It wasn't not like now that you
Yeah,
drive 5 minutes and you find a jiu-jitsu school with a decent instructor. Back then, there was only really a handful of guys. So, he told me, if you want to go to South Beach, I was like, oh, man, I know who Conan. I've heard of Conan Silvera. I'm going to go to South Beach. I don't care driving. So I did the drive, and that was entertaining because, man, that training was hardcore. It's just very different, At the time, if you wanted to train, you train. It was they were not catering to the general public.
Right.
They were all, and Paul's even said this. At that time, it was fighters. It was by
Absolutely,
fighters for
100%.
fighters.
So
They
did
would-
you have aspirations to fight, or you wanted to further your judo career?
No,
or?
I wanted to get better with the gi. And at the time, I knew a handful of places for judo, and I was already training with some guys that today they run the National Training Center here in South
really?
Florida.
Okay.
Johnny Prado. They run Kitsusai Judo Club in Coconut Creek now. But again, back then we were training in his garage and at a park in Coral Springs. They would bring mats. We rented a gazebo for like $10 a day, roll the mats, and we did work there. But anywho, so that was my intent. After watching, and again, I'm dating myself, after watching a bunch of UFC on VHS,
we're all of that.
and laser disc and 8-track and all.
Listen,
okay.
real talk. My mom's first car had an 8-track.
There you go.
So, and I still remember it. It was a Datsun 210.
Oh my God, a Datsun.
A Datsun. So, yeah. But I went down to Conan's, and it didn't click at the time because with my work and school schedule, I was going out college at the time. It just didn't work out. But I went to Popovitch, and he had just opened the location on Commercial Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale, near Lauderdale by the beach. And that was a 20, 30-minute drive from where I lived at the time. So that's who I started really formally training with Pablo and George Popovitch.
And was this strictly in the gi, or were you also doing no gi?
So, again, back then it was Monday through Friday. It was gi.
Yeah.
And no gi training was very sporadic. It was Saturdays maybe. And then if Pablo had a match coming up, then we would take the gi top off and just train that way.
Wow. So what was that like? Like, what was Pablo like?
It was tough, man. At the time when I started, Pablo was still a purple belt. No. But he was not just your average
not the
purple belt
I
either.
was say, like we're talking about world.
The
champion
kid,
Pablo
and I don't
Popovitch.
know if a lot of people know this, like his mother's maiden name is Gracie.
Oh, really?
Right. So, his dad was best friends with Halls Gracie. He was good friends with Halls Gracie.
Halls Gracie?
Yeah,
Like
Halls
the-
Gracie.
Really?
The one that died in the hang gliding accident.
Yeah.
So he was born. Pablo was born on the mats.
Yeah.
Virtually. So he was not just your average and then he's always been like gymnast built athletic.
Yeah, he must have been fairly young.
Oh yeah, I mean, again, he was still a purple belt.
Yeah,
Actually, when I started training with him, maybe not even a year after, it was the Pan Ams, and they happened in Miami. I don't remember what year, 98, 97. And Pablo won, I want to say he did won the purple belt, his division at the Pan Ams. Marcelo Silveira competed, Nino Schembri competed there. Marcos Pajumpiña da Mata, it was like the match of the night, the finals, him and Hoyler Gracie.
Wow.
Oh, wow. This is like golden age.
Right.
Right? Like, yeah,
so
that's
these
awesome.
these are all these legends of the sport. I remember Nino Schembri. They were calling his name and nobody could find him, and he was out on the balcony hanging out with some people, and runs to the mat. Just kind of like his gi is all messed up, and he just throws it on, runs in there, and just omoplatas triangles the dude in like less than a minute, and runs back out and hang out with his friends and do his thing. And it was amazing to see that, And then you saw some people like they're super disciplined and they're just on the mat warming up, and. But that was my first experience. Pablo was a purple belt.
What belt were you at the time?
I was a white belt.
Okay, so you're.
But again, I was not a regular white belt because I had a judo background. So I asked Pablo's dad, George Popovitch, can I enter? I'll go in as a blue belt. I don't care. He's like, no, they're going to destroy you. You might be able to take him down, but it's a whole different way. I don't care. And I wanted to compete a lot back then. And but George Popovitch talked me out of it, so I never competed at that Pan Am's. Then after that, it kind of like the Pan Am started moving around. They got, I think they did the next one in Brazil, and then eventually the next one. I was already a purple belt in '99. Yep, that was '99 or 2000. Shoot, I don't remember exactly now, but it was heat. Well, yeah, it was in at the Kissimmee Civic Center.
Okay.
And I took second in my division, and then I did the open, won my first match, and I lost my second match to Andre Galvao.
How about that?
Man, he ran a train on me. I'm gonna claim the foot sweep, but I think he just pulled guard and then swept me, mounted, took my bag, and choked me unconscious. Like I literally would not tap. I was just like, whatever. I'll.
So how old was he at the time? He was at what?
He must
Probably
been
19, 18 years
Oh
old.
my God.
Yeah, he was a young cat back then.
Damn.
But that was my starting. And I had some intentions on fighting MMA at some point. And when I really started focusing more on boxing and no-gi stuff, it just happened that way that I started helping to manage some of the pro teams, and we were still not officially American top team. When I left Pablo Popovitch, we had some disagreement in administration and me. Minotauro Nogueira had just moved to Florida. He opened a gym in the Fort Lauderdale area. I trained with him for a little time, and that's when I started training. I broke my wrist during training for one of the fights that I had scheduled. And then shortly after, Minotauro went back to Brazil to BTT and closed the academy. So then I moved. I was kind of like Ronin. I would go to high school wrestling clubs and just train a little with those guys. And I had two other friends with me that were kind of like on the same boat. They just wanted to supplement their training.
Yeah. And
that's what pretty much we did. And the only training jiu-jitsu that I did was with them. But
and
then,
what belt were you at the time then?
This is probably 2000, that year of 2000, 2001 time frame.
And so you don't have like a coach then?
At that point, no, I didn't, because again, I was with Pablo Popovitch for like 3 years. And again, I still to this day, I saw Pablo maybe 2 years ago. And, if I'm not mistaken, he lives in Abu Dhabi now.
Oh, does it really?
Yeah, and I love and respect the guy. I have a great deal of respect for him, but we just had a business disagreement.
So he was the one that belted you up from white to purple.
To white to blue.
White to blue. Okay, blue.
Right.
Okay.
And then I got my purple belt officially under Marcelo Silveira.
Okay.
Which is Conan's brother.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
that's in South Florida too.
And yes. Yeah, I got all my belts while I was living down there in South Florida.
And ATT doesn't exist yet.
Yes, at this time when I got my purple belt, American Top Team, we had just begun.
Okay.
We were not even 3 months into it.
Wow.
So I was kind of like a little bit of a Ronin for some time until a good friend of mine, and he's a very well-known manager for MMA fighters, Alex Davis.
Oh yeah, he's the dude who's always standing next to the Brazilians.
Right. Well, he's
Right,
you know,
like-
if you see him, he looks, he's a typical white dude. He looks like a Texan dude.
Yeah.
His
like,
father
like
is, I believe, he's
square
from
head, right? Like-
Texas. In his name, Alex Davis, but he was born and lived in Brazil most of his time.
oh really?
Yeah. So he's
And how'd you
Portuguese
befriend him by way of jiu-jitsu purely?
because of Jamie Levine.
Oh okay.
So he actually also gave me my first official job in the MMA world. They needed somebody to be the timekeeper and do some errands for an event called WEF, and I want to say 5
At
is
the,
when Jeremy
War Memorial,
Horn fought Minotauro Nogueira. Matt Hughes fought, I want to say it was Pele Landi.
Oh my gosh.
Pat Miletich fought George Pereira. Renato Babalu fought versus Charles Kohler. Aaron Riley fought on that card. Actually, I think Aaron Riley was on the undercard. But, I mean, it was, at the time, it's like, now we look at this event.
Yeah, these are Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Well,
like-
it was literally in, like, BFE Rome, Georgia, in a town called Rome in Georgia, about another hour north of Atlanta. And I think we might have gotten maybe 1,000, 1,500 people at that stadium. And all these were today Hall of Famers and legends of mixed martial arts. So I drove up and I worked the event and I helped out throughout a bunch of different things. But the convenience is I speak English and Spanish. Obviously, Spanish is my first language, but I was able to pick up Portuguese fairly well and very quickly. Again, I spent an insane amount of time with Pablo Popovitch and his family. I mean, to me, I was kind of, part of the family. The mom and the dad would invite me for dinner over after training. I always gave Pablo extra rounds when he wanted, even though I was dying. But, I tried my best. And so I was...
You said Matt Hughes fought Jorge Pereira?
Was it Matt Hughes? I thought
No,
Matt
Pele
Hughes
Landi.
fought Pele Landi. Or Matt Hughes fought George Pereira. Which one? No, Matt Hughes fought George Pereira.
Okay, so that was World Extreme Fighting.
Yes,
WEF,
correct.
yeah.
WEF.
I'm confusing with AFC.
Yeah.
Which is those are the ones held in South Florida.
Yep, that was it, January of 2000. I just
That's
had to
it.
look
Wow.
January 2000.
So this is all when UFC's dark too, right? Like
UFC was relative, actually under Semaphore Group.
Yeah, SEG, right? Like it
SEG,
wasn't even.
Semaphore Entertainment Group, and they were doing small shows in
And
Alabama.
WEF at the time was actually a
And
fairly
WEF
good
actually was the
competitor.
major competition of the UFC.
That's awesome.
I mean, we had
So
King
this
of the
is
Cage in the
pre-Zuffa.
West.
yeah, pre-Zuffa.
Oh, way
yeah,
pre-Sufa.
okay.
Way pre. I mean, this is maybe 5-6 years pre-Sufa.
So you were your first job with him, timekeeper
Timekeeper and chauffeur.
and chauffeur.
That's right, man. Listen, I've done it all. I've been the guy getting the coffee, and I've been a promoter myself, and I've been a referee. I cannot think of a particular job, whether it's MMA or jiu-jitsu events, that I probably have not done. And again, that's not tooting my horn. That's just facts, just being around for a minute.
How did you So did you further your MMA behind the scenes career with WEF and stick with them for a little bit?
I
or-
did a couple of times, but then an organization came about in the actually it wouldn't be mid 2000s, but around 2005. And that's really when I started getting a lot more involved. Let me take 2 steps back, because in 2001, the Absolute Fighting Championship is an event that I became the coordinator and / promoter.
Oh, you were promoting this?
Yes.
Oh, really?
We were the first licensed event in the state of Florida. But before that, the events were not, there was not an athletic commission. You didn't have
It
to
wasn't
go.
like sanctioned.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, we were the first event to be legally completely like that on the books. And my license actually was the matchmaker. But again,
There's a specific
You wore a lot
license.
of hats.
Yes.
You wore a lot of different
So
hats.
just out of curiosity, what made you take this step and the leap from becoming the behind the scenes guy to the I want to promote a show now.
I enjoyed it. I truly enjoy doing all of those things. You know, I have fun. You get the best seat in the house, you know, and it is stressful, but when the event is done and it has really completed, and you look back and you say, wow, that was really cool. We did a good job. And again, putting myself in the athlete's position, I try to put myself as a spectator as well. I try to fulfill the necessities for all those people, not just the promoter put the event, let's try to make some money.
Right.
You know, I really want to make the event entertaining for the spectators and of value to the participants. Why should I come to your event? I put myself in those shoes and I try to.
And you have the experience being in all those different shoes.
Correct.
So you understand.
Right. And
the
I've been in
needs
all
and
those
desi-
shoes. I've
Yeah,
been
exactly.
a fan. I've competed myself. I've fought MMA myself. So, you know, I look at the aspects, what can I do better? And I try to do the best that I can.
So you said you competed in MMA also. Did you not love fighting? Or
Man,
just out of curiosity?
I'll be 48 in less than a month.
Are you really?
So, yeah. You know, your body doesn't, after a certain age, your body doesn't heal the same. And, you know, with other priorities, you know, Jiu-Jitsu and MMA kind of took a step back for many, you know, for a long time, you know, I really did not train at all.
Okay.
You know, I would coach, you know, but I wasn't training. It takes a toll to be a good coach. And I took, you know, and I also pat myself on the shoulder about it because I took two guys that had very little experience and we went from zero, and both of these guys fought in the UFC.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, homegrown from the get-go. You know, they could do a Kimura because they learned it in YouTube, but it was terrible, you know? And we went from that point. They were both fair. They did okay. They're still.
If you
not
made to
in
the UFC, you're good.
But they made it to the
I don't
UFC
care, right?
through the, you know, low-level events.
Yeah, you were able to develop those guys.
So I enjoy that, but you know, and the other thing, man, getting punched in the face is not for me.
It sucks. It sucks, right? Like,
you know, I did it in boxing when I was a kid. You know, I boxed for a while, and then when I was training, I would train with the MMA team. You know, and I remember one day, the day that I said, nah, I don't think I want to do this, I was training with Dennis Kang.
oh,
Oh
really?
my God.
Really?
And
Well, that was.
well, here's the thing, though. We were doing okay, and it was one of the, we called it bloqueo, and one of the hard sparring days. And Paul would tell you about bloqueo days. People would go and shaking because it was hard sparring, and you know, it was
Dennis Kang will knock
gonna
anyone.
suck.
Dude, he had power.
And the first round, it was a good round. It was me and Dennis. We had shin guards, big gloves, and it was the okay round. Man, the second round, Dennis turned it up. I started getting tired. I threw a kick. He took me down. And for the next, it felt like an eternity. I was eating Canadian, Korean fish sandwiches left and right. It was sucked. And I was just like, man, I was already in my 30-something. I was like, I'm okay. You know, I can do jiu-jitsu forever.
Yeah.
I cannot be eating these punches from a D. And this is when real D1 level athletes, like high level athletes, started coming into the scene. Because there was a period of time that you had good athletes. But you can go back and look at the first 3 UFCs and look at the last 3 UFCs.
Oh, yeah.
And just the physicality alone and the level of athleticism. It's a whole different world. And, and that's kind of when I said, yeah, I'm going to take a step back to this. You know, and I still kept training, but I was not as active. I took a couple of fights when I lived in the Midwest, and I did it more for my students because when I opened the gym in the Midwest, nobody knew me. So a lot of the guys are like, oh, coach, we want to see you. And I said, okay. So I took a couple of fights in Indiana and Chicago.
What brought you to the Midwest?
My daughter's mother. In the 2008s, I had moved out of the States for some time for work. When we came back, we decided, you know, we can go back to Florida. We have a good network of people there, but let's start something new, somewhere very different. And she's originally from Indiana, so we picked Indiana. And
How does somebody who is born in Puerto Rico...
challenging. That's the
And-
one single word.
Welcome to snow, man.
Yeah,
How do you
like,
like
it's-
shoveling snow?
I don't mind the snow, but Midwest winter is very different than.
It's gray and dark.
Oh,
Man,
You
it
gotta take that vitamin D,
it
brother.
hurts. Listen, you're not supposed to be anywhere where the wind hurts you.
yeah. Humans aren't meant for that, right?
It's not, man. You know. But you know what? I had some rough times. I have some really good times. Midwest winters, man, they suck. And this is why, and I am sure this is why Midwest people are so freaking tough.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Like, I bet.
There's
You
good
get it.
wrestling. There's good wrestling in the Midwest.
Because it's indoor sport. So,
Got none but you can't play basketball.
man, from November to March, guess what? Your ass wants to be indoors, man. And it's just, that's how you get tough, man. And those guys, and again, there's a certain thing about, that work ethic that country folk
yeah,
have, you know? And it's just, I had a kid, actually, man, Bo Butler's his name. And just, this is a kid from,
That sounds like a Midwestern.
he's a hardcore. And if you ever saw him, he's about a Miss Western as he looks. And he looks like his name. He's a big, square, husky, 200 pounds, big block head. He looks like a pit bull, all jacked up on one of those Jacko pre-workouts. And he was a stud, state level wrestler. But again, it's just, you're supposed to work hard. Not necessarily always smart, but you bust your ass till you can give no more, and then
Yeah.
you give some more.
What did you find the... I'll just use Jiu-Jitsu and MMA scene synonymously. But what was that scene like when in that Midwestern town
When you
that-
moved up there.
Yeah, when you moved up there. Obviously,
Well,
it's different now.
It's changed, right? It's been 11 years, when I first moved to Indiana, but it was very different. I remember there was this one event, one of the first events that I went to in Indiana, where the promoter offered an extra $500 if you can throw somebody over the cage.
So this isn't all nonsense and stuff, right?
This is legit, as real gets. I mean, we were at the rules meeting. I actually refereed this event, and the promoter asked me to referee because he knew me, and and I said, okay, sure, I'll referee the event. There was no sanctioning, no commission, and during the middle, I give the rules meeting. This is what is expected. This is what it's allowed, and blah blah blah. And the promoter, hey, by the way, nobody leaves. And, takes out a wad, $500 cash. He goes, if you can throw your opponent over the cage, I'll give you an extra $500. And everybody is like, is this for real?
This shows you what the payoff for like.
He
back-
was,
Yeah, like...
and
if
he
that's
was
the
very,
window, right,
he
like-
was very serious about it. He genuinely offered an extra $500 if you could throw your opponent over the cage.
But was this cage the same size as what we typically?
6 foot fence.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
But you have to understand, again, we're in the mid. This actually was in Lafayette, Indiana. Purdue University is right there, and you
Bunch of
have some of the
wrestlers
best
and-
wrestlers in the
yeah.
nation
Yeah.
there. So it's a couple of the guys competed there. Actually, one of the coaches, Big Tom Erickson, was across.
Really?
Yeah, man.
Oh, wow. That,
Big
like,
Tom
big
Erickson
cat,
was the
right?
heavyweight coach for Purdue University, or is probably still.
That's crazy. So just to circle back to the jiu-jitsu for a second, you said you took some time off from training. How did that progression go from purple to brown to black? And where were you training, and where did you get belted up?
So as a purple belt, in my opinion, as an athlete, purple belt and brown was my best time.
Okay.
As an athlete, that was my best time. I was in decent shape. I would compete. I would do a 10-minute rounds. It was nothing for us because, one of the things is that we did really long rounds. Well, that's one of the, for some reason, I don't know why most gyms you go now, people time is 6 minutes. And I understand time constriction to serve more people.
Yeah.
But, we were doing 10-minute rounds was normal.
Okay.
That was just the average round for us. Then it's like, okay, guys, we're doing extra long minute rounds. We're doing 15, 20-minute rounds. And you could ask Paul, when we started American Top Team, was it at a Taekwondo academy that was really small place called Boca Black Belt Academy.
That
And
sounds
it was-
like such a Taekwondo academy.
like that guy, hardcore. But if I say that place was 600 square feet total, I'm probably being extremely generous.
So this is ATT version
First-
1.0.
Version 0.01. And Saturdays was the no-gi day, and you would have 20, 25 guys in there training
Oh
no-gi.
my god.
No air conditioner. They would just open one door in the back end, one door in the front end, and let's go. And it was a slip and slide. And, this is the days where it was appropriate to train no-gi MMA on the Speedo
Yeah,
shorts.
the little,
Oh, yeah.
the little weenie wraps.
It was, yeah. So, it was fun, and but for me, that was my best time because we trained so much.
So you were doing
And who are you
MMA
training under at this time?
along
And
with-
when you
At
were
this
purple
time, I
and-
started training. Well, this is when I had left. I didn't leave. Minotauro Nogueira had moved back to Brazil.
Okay.
And I started training with Marcelo Silveira at Boca Black Belt Academy
And he was the one who gave you your purple.
and he's
and my brown belt.
and
your
it's
brown belt,
considered
okay.
ATT at this
And
point.
at this point was not considered ATT. It was called Silveira Brothers. The Jiu-Jitsu part of the Taekwondo Academy was Silveira Brothers, which is Marcelo Silveira and Conan Silveira.
Okay.
Okay. So
And
when,
Conan had his academy down in South Miami at a gym called the Zone Fitness. So every other Saturday, we would either drive
there
down
or
or
they
they
would
would
come.
come up.
gotcha. So then you'd have
So you
training.
you guys are just renting space from places at this point. You're
At
not
the,
even
at the beginning, yes, that's how
Or
it
subleasing,
originally
whatever,
started. And then eventually, and everybody knows, Dan Lambert, who's the owner of American Top Team, we acquired the first location. And by this time, I was really assisting, running the daily operations of the gym, doing some of the marketing, helping with the management of a lot of the fighters, contacting a lot of the promoters, and I'm talking about Scott Coker.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
So you're doing a lot of the front office.
You're
stuff.
the
Right.
you're the ops guy.
sort of kind of like
Yeah.
the ops person, yes.
You make
And,
shit happen is what you do.
Well, it was really the daily operations, they had a vision. They would tell me, this is what we want to do, make it happen. And we just made it happen. And it was really a team effort. It was just not a single person. But again, because a lot of the guys did not speak very well English or couldn't read the contracts really well, I would help and assist with that aspect, or the guys needed something,
So at this point, is it? I mean, like it's the team, but it's the guys, like you being an athlete in the team as well.
right.
You guys are all trying to make it happen, but there's no actually like staff.
Well, when we
Right.
when we moved to the first official American Top Team location in Coconut Creek, which did you guys go to? Not the current location now that is gigantic.
But
the one before that.
I have not.
It was about 10,000 square feet, but before that we had a location that was about 5,000 square feet. And at that point, when we got the first location, we were starting to get more defined as in staff. There were
and giving responsibility and roles.
yes.
To
Yeah, I
so
got
like I would be there first thing in the morning, and literally open the door, and I was the last person close the door at night. But we had there were certain coaches that were focused on the MMA part. There were certain coaches focusing on the jiu-jitsu aspect. We had a couple of coaches for strength and conditioning. So it was the first development. And to be honest, because it was the beginning part, it was a little bit disorganized, but we were making
Were
do and
people
doing pretty
naturally falling into those roles, or was there
Some
somebody
did. Like, for example,
Like
in
you
my
did,
case,
right? Like,
I'll
yeah,
use,
yeah.
I can use myself as an example. I just naturally fell in there because I was the guy that,
I get you done.
Yeah, like you saw. So,
Well,
yeah, you
not
saw
only
a
I
need
get it
that-
done, it's like, who do you know that can get, who knows a promoter in Georgia, for
Right,
example?
right.
Sure.
I knew a guy in Georgia. And I would call him, and
Carlos keeps raising his hand up. Well, I can do that. I can. And, damn, this guy can do it.
well, this is the thing, and I think it's part of an upbringing. You know, I was taught to never be afraid of taking a job that you may not be qualified for, you know, and just wing it, and you'll make it. You know, if you got 3 brain cells left, and you know, and that's what I did. You know, a lot of times, I'll tell you what, I'm not an attorney. I do not have an MBA in negotiations, but I was able to negotiate some pretty decent contracts for some of the guys to fight in some of the events.
So you were doing the actual management.
Some to certain extent,
okay,
yeah. And again, it was not that I never. I'll be very forward about this. I never made the final decision.
I gotcha.
It was something that I would go to the athlete. I would go to Liborio, Conan, Marcelo, and Dan. And it's like, guys, I contacted this person. You know, for example, Mike Brown going to the WEC. You know, he was fighting first in Bulldog, and Bulldog said, you know.
I remember Bulldog.
Oh, my God.
I remember that.
And man, I got some awesome stories about Bulldog, but...
weren't they the ones that had that marketing campaign that had scantily clad women like doing MMA? Yes, he knows exactly.
Yeah. Yes,
I remember that ad campaign.
Bulldog, yeah.
Man,
Don't tell me you're at that photo shoot there, man.
Behind the scenes.
That's not for the public.
So I'll take that off on after.
So you know the WEC. You know, I reached out and they said, listen, if he wins this Bulldog fight, and I think it was his last Bulldog fight was Eve Edwards. You know.
Whoa, hang on. Eve Edwards, who was also ATT.
Before he wasn't.
Okay. I was like, ooh,
right, before he wasn't.
Okay.
So Eve Edwards, you know, and they fought in St. Petersburg, Russia, or was that in Moscow? I don't remember if I was it was in Russia. Mm-hmm. You know, and I reached out to Scott and I said, hey, he won. Let's make it happen. And they offered him, I want to say it was Big Frog first, Pat Coran, and then second.
WC had the lighter weight category.
Oh yeah,
I think it was Garcia.
Faber.
It was Coran first, Garcia after, and then the agreement was if he wins those 2 fights, he get shot to Uriah Faber, and so we got him the 3-fight deal with the Uriah Faber after. Did I say it right? Coran, Garcia, and then Faber, right?
It was so Edwards, and he fought in hook and shoot actually. Oh, which was also a part of Bodog.
Bodog, yeah.
And then Manny Reyes Jr.
Oh, that was oh my
That's
God.
actually kickboxing. It's a karate guy.
No, that was an MMA fight. So this guy
But Manny Reyes is a karate guy, though.
That is the guy. Manny
I
Reyes.
remember him from my Taekwondo days, being a superstar.
In Taekwondo, fighting, he was a superstar.
But he was a big shit
talker. But then he got,
too.
oh my God, bigger than Gordon Ryan.
Yeah, like he was a big shit talker. No, like legit. Like
imagine if he had Twitter back then.
Man, imagine if we had Instagram back then. It
was he calling out Mike Brown?
Oh, he called out Hermes Franca. He called out Mike Brown. He called out everybody. He said, nobody can touch me at 55. And he would send threads. He would send stuff in the mail.
Is
this guy was a straight savage. And
but he knew what he was doing. Like he
wanted a payday.
Yeah.
But he genuinely, this is the thing. He genuinely thought that his stand-up was good enough to stop any of these guys.
Really? And being from a 11 years of Taekwondo, you kind of get that shit put in your head.
Oh, yeah.
I just wouldn't get taken down, and I bet you
That's exactly what he said. There's no way that any of these
face.
guys can take me down.
Right? And
so we made it happen. We made the Manny Reyes fight, and that was an AFC.
And then
event.
Jeff Curran.
And then Jeff Curran.
And then Uriah.
Yeah.
Is that when he won?
I thought it was Garcia was after Uriah.
So he went Edwards, Eben Oros.
Eben Oros, yeah, that was in AFC.
Manny Reyes.
Okay.
Jeff Curran, and then Faber.
It was okay.
So he got his title shot second fight in
right.
WEC?
If it was, yeah, because that was part of the agreement. I mean, if you see, Brownie was on a really good run. Then he won a good amount of decent fights.
Oh yeah. I mean Edwards,
man, that was a very close fight. I'll be really
Imanari.
honest. Yeah, that
Wow.
was terrible. The Imanari fight.
But
we were actually doing some video study for the Imanari fight, and Brownie at one point, the Imanari did his little roll to the heel hook, and Brown says, that shit won't work.
Famous last words?
Sure enough.
Like,
Ended up needing knee surgery.
oh my God.
Oh yeah, Imanari. If you watch the video, it's dropped in.
Whoa.
Imanari rolled to yoke. So yeah, don't ever say that stuff don't work.
So you're at this point you're stepping back from super active training. And
Yeah, so absolutely. And now at this point, I was focusing on growing the academy,
Yeah.
helping the guys, and running day-to-day operations.
And this is pre 2008. That's when you move away to Indy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it was a couple of years. I think we officially started American Top Team in 2001, 2002. No, actually, well, yeah, because we went to Columbus, Ohio for the Arnolds as a team. It was a big group of us. And I think it was still we all registered as Silveda Brothers.
Oh my goodness, really?
Yeah, and this is when the Arnold Classic, they had the Gracie World Championships.
Gracie World. So that means it's no time limit.
No, but it was time limit, but
It's different, way different rules, right, than IBJJF.
no, it was obviously. I mean, the IBJJF rules, they have changed a couple of times in the last few years, but standard points. 2 points for
Okay,
takedown, guard passes, mount, knee, stomach. But I'll give you an example. Jeff Monson on a feature fight that they did competed versus Pedepano.
Really?
And man, that was a ish show, because they said the rules and one person interpreted it one way, but it wasn't, and then there was a language barrier. But there was a lot of money in between. Back then, I think it was $5,000 or $10,000 to the winner. So that's a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
Even
grappling.
today for
Yeah, for
grappling, it's
grappling,
still
that's
a lot of money.
Yeah.
And there was a big argument, and then
And those are two big name dudes.
Oh yeah, no,
Like,
and
yeah,
at the time it was two real big names.
Yeah, like two Abu Dhabi.
The
at that
best,
point,
right?
Yeah.
The two best in the world. And there was a big riot, and people were doing flying kick across the mats.
Nah.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. It was madness.
Man, social media should have been bigger then.
dude,
that's
I'm telling
stuff
you,
that I want to see.
I'll be on. Actually, do you guys know who Ricardo Mendiola is? They call him Balea.
He's the guy who does all the breakdown. Yeah,
He does
know
all breakdowns.
Yeah,
he works
yeah.
for Flow Grappling as
Okay,
well.
yeah.
Good buddy, great guy. And he did a little back. He does a lot of like throwbacks videos, and he has that. He put one of those
We'll have to find
not
that.
long
We'll
ago
put a link in this one.
on one of his things.
So did you? Yeah, go
ahead.
ahead. No.
Oh, what I was gonna say is, so with ATT forming in South Florida, you mentioned Liborio's name a few times.
Yes.
When did he get into the equation? Because you mentioned you were with Conan and his brother.
Right. So, and I'll go back. First time I met Liborio, he came in for a seminar at Popovitch Academy.
And was he
So
still
this is-
residing in Brazil at this
ATT
point?
doesn't even
This
exist.
is
Not
still-
even a glimmer of that, right?
This is still Carlson Gracie days.
Oh,
Okay.
wow. Okay.
Pablo Popovitch and his dad at the time were Carlson Gracie team. I met.
Oh, they were?
I met Master Carlson a couple of times. He got come down to Florida a few times. I met Liborio one time, and then when I was already with the Silveda brothers, Liborio had come down, and I guess he was going to do like a couple of months of training with us. Dan Lambert and Conan and Marcelo, they were all real good friends back from Brazil, from the Carlson Gracie Academy originally, and they brought in Liborio, and Liborio, loved Florida, and one thing led to the other, and ended up staying, and that's when American Top Team really started, and it was the four of them. It was Liborio, Conan, Marcelo Silveira, and Dan Lambert, and they created American Top Team, and they got everything together. So that's the reality. The four base corners of American Top Team was that.
Those were
point.
the original pillars.
Because
Correct.
of the
original
founding
pillars.
fathers.
So,
Correct.
at what point did you receive your black belt, and who was the one that promoted you?
Officially, Liborio promoted me.
Okay.
Officially.
All right.
I was just in the plannings of moving to Indiana, and I had come to Florida. We still had some stuff in storage, and I came to visit family, and so it must have been 2008, 9. And I'm terrible with dates. I'm
So,
sorry.
I mean, at this point, you've been
You've got
training
quite a bit of
jiu-jitsu.
career
Yeah, you've been training.
in-
Aside from obviously training all that judo
I have been
as a
training
child.
for at least, in jiu-jitsu, at least 10 years
At
now.
least, yeah, I was
10,
going to say
11
10 or
years.
12 was the math
Yeah.
I was putting in my head.
And you know, again, I should have gotten my black belt before, but I had stopped because I was working a lot and not focusing training so much. It's like you can't promote really honestly. And now as a black belt, I understand it. You can't promote somebody if they're really not putting the time in.
Sure.
At least on the on the upgrades on the color belts, So and I understood it. That was fine with me. I was like, man, I know I'm not putting the mat time in. I get it, And I would keep up, but there was really not a lot. Again, from brown to black, there was not a incredible progression to me like it was from purple to brown. I can tell the difference of progression for me.
Yeah.
From brown to black, there was some, but not great. But when I was, again, technically proficient and I personally saw a lot of growth was from purple to brown.
Purple to brown. Interesting. So,
but I need to make a little asterisk
Give me the
on my
asterisk.
promotion. So officially by Liborio, because Liborio reached out, and he's a personal great friend of mine, reached out to Rafael Rebello and Rafael Diaz. And by proxy, Fabio Mello. They had an academy in downtown Lauderdale, and Liborio couldn't make it. So he told the guys, he's like, listen, tonight I'm going to tell Carlos to go to the academy. I'm not going to tell him for what, but he has to go to the academy, and you guys are going to promote him.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, I mean, there was a bunch of people, and I literally trained with everybody. I was dying because, again, I was just in the midst of moving. I just moved back to the U.S., and it's a big move, a lot of stuff, and I really wasn't focused in training that much. And but I was started to train more consistent. I came in, and I think there were like there were more. There were like 7 or 8 different black belts on the mat, a couple of brown belts, a bunch of purple belts and blue belts. And I'm like, man, this is going to be a rough night. But, man, I just went out there and trained with everybody. At the end of the class, I already had 4 degrees on my brown belt. And Rafi Rebello takes out the tape and starts stripping another strip. And I'm like, all right, whatever. I was like, okay,
what am I to say?
Right, exactly.
Who am I to say anything?
I'll be a 10-degree purple brown belt. I don't care. And he just started laughing, and then they took a black belt and promoted me. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome, man. That's really, really
So
cool.
officially Liborio, but the man that put the belt around my waist was Rafi Rebello and Rafi Diaz.
Okay.
So when you went up to Indy, at this point you're moving from Florida to Indy, right?
Yeah, and then when I went to Indiana, I had just gotten my
your
black
black belt, and you opened ATT.
And I opened ATT Indianapolis about 6 months after I moved.
Is
to
that
Indiana.
your first academy that you've run?
Yes,
Awesome.
And it was literally in the heart of downtown. And when I say in the heart of downtown, if you look at the city of Indianapolis, smack in the middle, there's a circle. I'm 1 block away from that circle.
Oh, wow.
And in a very busy intersection. But little did I know that downtown on any city might not be the best place for an academy.
Because it's dead on the weekends.
Absolutely dead. The foot traffic is during business hours. I mean, Indianapolis, the city itself, is a business downtown type
business
place.
district, yeah.
It's a business district. So it's not like a residential location or, like here we have Colonial. It's a huge traffic road. It was rough. It was challenging, man.
Is it
and it
still
was
there?
a very humble place too,
Is it still there, or is it?
No,
have you
we moved locations. Now we moved to a much bigger academy, and again, we moved to a closer, more residential area on the west side of town, and we're doing well. And actually, I'm going up now in October because it's going to be our 10th year anniversary.
Oh, congratulations!
So
as a new business owner, you had already worn all the hats, so you knew kind of what goes into it, right? Like, were you teaching all the classes?
But again, I was very naive about some business decisions that I didn't take place during an American Top Team, and I kind of like observed from the back. So again, I try to wing it, and I have my hard lessons, and I have some things that I got pretty lucky with. But the good thing is we grew the brand. We grew the American Top Team brand in Indianapolis. We had a pretty decent MMA team for the local scene. Starting, I had a couple of guys that they would train with each other. They really had no formal training and direction, and that's
a lot
what
of
the guys
garage gyms. Like that
literally, I mean, it was just really rudimentary and rustic type training.
So is that I mean, is it safe to say that you're the father of MMA in?
Absolutely not. No, man. There's guys that've been there for a long time. They're you have their guys. Jesus, like you have. Man, I credit where credit is due. James Klingerman. You got Miguel Torres. You have.
God, that's a name.
Braulio Corral. Yeah. You have these guys that they've been in the scene, and man, I know him right now. Alan Stockman. I gotta give credit to credit's due. Those guys have been in the scene in the state of Indiana for a very long. Pat McPherson. He's the integrated fighting. Chris Lytle.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Man, no way. If you're gonna call anybody the grandfather of MMA in Indiana, it's gonna be Chris Lytle and Pat McPherson. End of story.
So when you went up there and formed the academy, what was, again, at the time, not what it's like now, what were the main differences that you saw between the scene from South Florida to what you were moving to in Indiana?
The technicality. You have guys here that would dedicate it the whole day to getting better at certain things. You had, you go to Indiana, I had guys that would work a factory job from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m., rush traffic to try to get in the academy as much as they could and then go home to their families. You had guys here that would do 3 trainings a day,
right,
every day. So technically, there was a big difference. But the difference is, again, man, with Midwest hard work.
Yeah, that ethic.
You got, so now you're getting a lot of guys, where you got Joe Ebersol, Jesus, I got his face right here. He was a wrestler at Purdue. He fought in the John Fitch.
Oh, John Fitch,
yeah.
But John Fitch, in order to get his maximum potential, he moved to California.
He had to go to AKA.
Right, he went to AKA. And again, we're talking about 10 years ago. Nowadays, it's very different. Nowadays, you got guys that will dedicate their whole time.
Yeah.
So at that time, you saw people that had tremendous work ethic,
and potential,
but just it wasn't typical for someone to be full-time training.
Absolutely.
They had a
like Chris Lytle was
job.
A full-time firefighter, right?
Still.
And MMA, it really.
And still.
And who was the other? Shane Carwin, wasn't
he?
He
was an engineer.
He was like an engineer.
Yeah, he was a civil engineer.
Well, you have Matt Mitrione was probably one of the first guys that was a full-time athlete, period, that became an MMA fighter. You had a couple of guys that were high-level athletes, but again, I'm trying to run through the Rolodex here. He was probably, you have a couple of guys that did really well, that were teachers. You have, again, Chris Lytle, but again, full-time fireman.
Yeah.
He also ran for Senate.
Did he really?
Yep.
State Senate?
State Senate.
This is pre-Chael Sonnen. Isn't he a state representative?
Actually, kind of around the same time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But so, I mean, like, did you... So a lot of untapped potential up there.
A lot of untapped potential.
And did you... So when you were running your academy, were you... You had to wear all the hats at that academy.
Of course.
Just being
it was my place.
Yeah.
I had a business partner that, he's still my business partner and one of my best friends. But yeah, he knew nothing about running an academy,
Yeah.
He originally became as an investor and, listen, I have the availability to this location and we can work these numbers out, and that's what we did.
And so you were teaching all the classes.
I was teaching all the classes.
Oh my god! And was it strictly a jiu-jitsu academy at the time, or MMA?
No, MMA.
MMA. So you had to do striking classes. Oh,
yeah. So in order to not burn myself out, which I did a little bit, I would run. Our original schedule was Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. It was gi.
Mm-hmm.
Tuesdays, Thursdays was no gi and striking. And then Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, we would have an MMA technical class. And then we would adjust the sparring schedule depending on what events we had coming up for MMA.
Are you still trying to promote events at the time when you're opening your academy, or you kind of stepped away from that
I stepped
focus
away.
on? Okay.
Yeah, no. I had a couple of offers to help start promoting events, but again, I didn't have the energy. And the other thing that we didn't talk about, I was living in a town called Kokomo, which is about Kokomo, Indiana.
Oh, okay. Not
Kokomo,
the Beach Boys song.
I feel like I've heard that.
Really?
Well, I feel like I've heard Kokomo before.
So
I've heard of.
Kokomo, Indiana is where the Chrysler factory is.
Okay, that's
okay.
where I've heard it.
And it's a huge it's a big industrial town, population probably in the whole county about 80,000. But, I was driving an hour and 20 minutes south to go to my academy, teaching all those classes, and then driving an hour and 20 minutes north back to my family.
Oh, so you're
And
gone
then
all day.
I would work in the mornings from 5 a.m. till approximately 3 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Go down, teach, and eventually I took a second job that I would work from 9 till about midnight, a part-time job doing concrete polishing.
Oh my god!
But it is what you got to do, man. You want to succeed, you got to get a leg up on the guy, man. You got to put more
What does
work.
Liborio say? You got to punch that clock, right?
That's it. You got to punch that ticket.
So I'm kind of curious, from your perspective, when do you think jiu-jitsu and even MMA to a lesser degree, but primarily jiu-jitsu, went from being what it was when you started, which was a room full of killers, where if you weren't tough, you weren't going to make it.
You're there to fight. You're there to learn to fight. And
to something that's now appealing to
me and Noah,
a blue-collar person, a banker, or lawyer. We have lawyers that train. We have doctors that train. And I'm not saying they're not badasses, but I'm saying
no. I completely get when it became attractive to the general population.
Correct. And gyms could start marketing to them and make money doing that.
In my honesty, thank you, Spike TV.
Oh, yeah.
So you think the Ultimate Fighter was
05?
100%. Yeah.
Really?
And actually, at the time, I was promoting the Absolute Fighting Championships.
Okay.
And our ticket sales bombed, and I put the blame on Spike TV. Because now you don't have to really... It was such a big boost of having the
now they can watch it for free
on free TV.
Yeah.
Why am I going to pay, general admission $20? And we were getting a couple of thousand people at the venue. We went actually from a small auditorium, the War Memorial Auditorium.
I've been to a couple of those.
Right? So we went from there to the Florida Atlantic University basketball stadium.
Yep.
And again, we were doing pretty well. But then when Spike started coming in, we could see our ticket sales decline substantially, and it just became something that it was just not,
because the environment now for local MMA promotions is it's very geared towards the fighters, they bring their base and that sort of thing. Even then you saw it decline, because I would think that local fighters would be out there.
Understand this, we were nothing amateur. We were bringing guys. We were bringing guys from Russia, Bulgaria, Japan. We brought guys worldwide to compete. Shaolin Ribeiro fought in the AFC. Antoine Jouard fought in the AFC. We had a couple of Japanese.
And you guys were able to recoup the cost of bringing these guys in for these events? Because if you go to a local event here, these people... The amount of money you have to spend on bringing a fighter in is way less than what you do having to fly someone in.
At local first, talent, no. Right? That's what you do it now.
Honestly, at first, no. But, we got to a point that we had Brad Pickett in our event. But it worked in our favor because Brad Pickett would come down to train with us. So now I didn't have to take care of that airfare. You know, that airfare from the UK to the US is good $1,500 alone. So at one point, yeah, we were making some money. It wasn't great money, but we were keeping afloat to be able to do the next production.
Do the next one, yeah.
So
what are you doing now these days on the promotion side?
in the promotion side, I'm working with a company called B2 Digital.
Okay.
And they are a conglomerate, and what they do is, again, they focus on MMA. That has been their ticket item. MMA events, they have purchased, they're the parent company to about 6-7 different MMA events throughout the Midwest. And, one of the things, obviously, MMA and Jiu-Jitsu go hand in hand. And they just had their first grappling event. We had it in Hammond, Indiana. We had about 200 plus participants.
That's awesome.
A
which is
tournament
not-
or like
a tournament,
okay.
open tournament.
Nice.
You can sign up from white belt to blue belt to whatever. We had a couple of super fights in the event, and again, everybody had fun. And we had a real good time. And they brought me in as, again, they're grappling. Their funny thing is on all of our messages and emails, my name is the Jiu-Jitsu guy. So
I guess that's okay. There we go.
that's my job. So, anywho's, pardon me, guys. So that's what we're doing, and we have an event. That was our first event, and we're gonna take these shows on the road. And our next event is gonna be here in Florida, right here in Orlando, on November 14th.
November 14th. So what's going to be the name of the event? Where can people?
It's called B2 Grappling Series. You can find the information at b2grappling.com. Also in social medias, Facebook, Instagram. And
Where's it going to be held?
it's going to be held at the Florida Convention Center.
Oh, wow.
At the Florida Hotel and Convention Center. So
That's
you know
in
where the Florida Mall is?
Yeah.
They have a hotel and convention center attached to it. It's going to be right there.
And is this event going to be strictly gi, or is there no?
Both gi and no gi, and it's really reasonable. It's only $55
Oh
for
my God. All right.
registration. Well, listen, we're not. Here's the
Even
thing.
New Breed is like $110.
So I'm gonna go back to something that I said a little while ago. I've been in the shoes of a competitor. The last event I competed was here at the Orlando Open, like 2 years ago, maybe.
IBJJF.
IBJJF.
Yeah. $120.
Right, man, dude. I
you
don't
gotta be a
care
member.
who
And
you
you
are.
gotta be a member.
And you got to be a
And you
card
have to
carrying
do the
member.
membership. And guess what? You're a black belt. You got to do membership. You
Oh,
got to
yeah.
do the registration, the background check, the whole shebang. It's like, dude, it's an investment. So I don't. And again, as a parent, this is something else that I've taken a look at. We spend a lot of money for our kids.
There's so many barriers to entry.
Right.
I'll let Chris talk about this one. I don't have,
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't have
yeah,
any
yeah, I
kids
get
yet, but Chris's eyes are lighting up like,
Oh,
fuck yeah,
like,
man.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Listen, a gi on the economical side, you're gonna pay $100 for the gi.
Yeah.
And you have 3 or 4 gis, and if you're a hardcore fan, you're paying $300 for the gi.
Yeah.
Why do your eyes tear up, Chris?
No. You're talking the king of geese here.
But
'cause
then-
I've got more than you can
But
count,
then
so.
again, now
And
that's
the kids
just
keeps getting bigger.
Exactly.
Right?
You
They
gotta
keep
get
going out of those
every year.
gis.
You gotta buy another.
now you also pay your membership fees for the academy.
Correct.
And if you do private tutoring, private coaching, you do the private classes. Now you got to spend money on gas. You got to spend money on travel, hotel and meals. And if you eat a good restrictive diet, I'm not going to say restrictive, but a healthy diet, well, guess what? You're probably spending more than $4 per meal on your fat food joint. So it's a big investment. So in order to make it work, I really sat down with the president of the company and everybody, and I said, guys, we need to come up to a price point where it makes sense that we're not going to lose our shirt, but it's viable for everybody. And 55 was the right number. So
Well, I think that's
think
a great.
yeah,
looking
like-
at so, next week or this Thursday, the pans
this
start.
Thursday, I'm coaching a couple of people at the pants,
That's-
$129.
Yeah, exactly. 129
For not
plus
even a guarantee. No. Well, I mean,
you get a T-shirt. So it's the
No,
most
No
expensive
guarantee
t-shirt.
match.
No guarantee match, and that's the crazy part, right? Like that's.
And guess what? If you miss weight, they don't move your brackets. Tough luck,
yeah,
buddy.
yeah, you're out.
You're a pound over. Oh, your git doesn't fit perfectly right within this room. I think that's
So do they have a plus or minus of a pound, or do you have to be
for
on-
us.
Yeah. For IBJJF. I'm just asking you because I'm competing.
Yeah,
I'm
he's
competing,
getting a little selfish
I'm
here.
asking the ref right away.
So, man, I have to be honest. I'm gonna say no.
No, okay, that's
err on the side of
I'm
caution,
operating
right?
off
I'd
of
rather
that.
err on the side of caution.
I'm like weighing. I'm putting my gi on every morning, stepping on the scale. And
I'm
okay.
not 100% if you get a plus or minus for equipment discrepancy, but I'm gonna say no.
Yeah.
But this is a fact. If you miss weight, tough luck, buddy. You didn't miss
Sorry.
weight.
Well, I heard
No refunds,
so
no exchanges.
I've heard that there are some stories, or let's say just say rumor and innuendo that some guys maybe a guy like Rafa Mendes will step on the scale and like oh wait wrong gi, and he'll go back and, and he'll weigh again, and then it's
Facts.
Like, all right, so
And I'm not gonna say that person, but I've seen something happen.
The big
where
name guys get a little.
I'm gonna say this. I've seen this. I saw a guy weigh in with a gi, gets off the scale, and as he's walking towards the mat, his friend gives him another gi top and switches his gi top. I saw this.
Where do they measure?
So I'm not gonna say the name of the person, but it
course
is a
not.
pretty well-known guy.
Yeah, okay.
Do they measure the? So hang on.
They
So
measure the sleeves. They measure
before you weigh or after you weigh.
as you're weighing in. You stand there.
Oh,
and the
as
guy,
you're weighing in.
There's a guy with a little ruler, and he sticks it in your sleeve, and the whole thing. Yeah.
Have you done all that just to make sure that it's all?
Oh, dude, I've got a couple gis.
do you? Okay, all right.
I'm
just gotta
making
make sure.
Yeah,
man.
I'm sticking my hands out and looking at. I look at the rule book and stuff.
Yeah, but if, for example, like with us, listen, if you miss weight, it happens, man. And especially with the kids, we'll just put you in the next bracket.
There you go, right? Like
we want to. Our point is, we want to give the best
a
experience.
consumer friendly.
Absolutely,
Yes.
100%.
Okay, so I'll make sure we put all the info online.
Yeah, we'll have to get
post
all
this
the-
episode.
all the-
We'll
sure,
get
sure.
that stuff up
The-
there. But that's really exciting. So this will be their second event.
It'll be
officially.
a second event.
grappling
We're
event.
looking probably to do one back in the Midwest for the month of December, but we're gonna be more than likely doing one per month.
Wow,
I'm
really?
looking at venues right now for Houston, Texas. Again,
How do you
the-
choose your cities? Like good.
Well,
good
first of all,
demographic
places where you can
yeah,
actually
I'll be
hold
honest.
the event.
that's
Listen,
right.
we have to be considerate of things, and it's really demographics of the sport. I'm not gonna go to, I don't know, man. It's some obscure little town in the middle of, Montana that where population.
Come on,
three-
man. North Fargo. Go to Fargo.
Yeah.
Go to North
Fargo,
Dakota or something.
Man,
Next-
you go to
2 months from
Bismarck,
now, yeah.
you go to Bismarck. There's a big jiu-jitsu community in Bismarck.
So is that to
kidding.
say you guys chose Orlando over someplace like Miami because
Well,
Orlando
here's-
has a stronger jiu-jitsu community?
Number one, Orlando does have a very strong jiu-jitsu community.
Incredibly, yes.
However, this is a strategical situation because if you do an event in Fort Lauderdale, Miami, people from Jacksonville won't drive down there because it's a 5-hour drive.
Right.
Some will, but not the majority. But if you go to the middle, and again, it's just a
Centrally
geographical
located.
thing. Right. It's just conveniently located. I just looked for some airfares, and from Chicago, for example, you can travel round trip for less than $100.
Really?
Yeah, to Orlando.
And if you want to go to Disney World or Universal on top of that with your child,
That's-
by all
And
means.
it's
It's
in
a
November,
destination,
so
yeah,
if you're in
so-
the Northeast, you're
Oh,
anywhere
yeah.
It's
north
looking
of the
mighty
Mason-Dixie
attractive.
line. Guess what? I mean, real talk. I'm wearing flip-flops
Yeah.
right now.
I know. Well, that's super awesome, man. So, I mean, from a business perspective, for this event to go off, what would success look like for you guys after holding this event? Looking back,
People to have a good time.
people have a good time.
That's,
All right.
that's
End
an
of
excellent
story.
answer. Yeah.
That for me is success. I want people to have a good time. Listen, it'll be great to have a gang of people and have a full day of matches nonstop from 9 a.m. till 7 p.m. Yeah, that'll be great. The reality of thing is, if we have a low turnout, we're still happy. Everything is paid for. We're rolling. We're rolling with it. If we have a low turnout, I'm okay with that as long as people have a great time. I want people to have fun. I want people to have some really good matches, fair scoring, because I know that's the other thing. We made the rules, in my opinion, a little simpler. There's no advantages. Advantages gets a little sketchy sometimes. There's no affiliation with the referees. All the referees have been instructed if they have somebody on the mat and there's any kind of affiliation, remove and excuse yourself from the mat, and we'll get somebody else to replace you for that match at least. I want people to have a good time.
Does that happen?
Absolutely.
Like affiliated refs?
Absolutely. It's happened to me at ADCC World Championships, and I will remove myself from the mat 100%. There's no
I can't believe there's not a rule in place to do that already.
I have
I mean, you're
competed.
doing the ethical thing to do.
I have competed myself against someone where their instructor was the referee on the
Oh, come on, man.
100%.
That's
And I'm not gonna say
It's
which
Jiu-Jitsu, brother.
I'm not gonna say which event, but it might rhyme with IBJJF.
That's how. I mean, like.
Well, I mean, I can see this stuff happening. You know?
I mean, yeah.
And they're
I guess
supposed to be they're supposed to have a certain level of professionalism and be impartial, whatever, the whole thing.
Even if you're
It's
trying
impossible,
to,
right?
Even if you're trying to, it might be hard.
Yeah,
You know what I
like,
mean?
yeah,
Because you're just
like-
going to see things through the lens
Differently.
of you're
Right.
going to see things different.
Right. You see it through a different lens. But, yeah, I mean, that's just what all of our referees have been instructed to do. If that person on the mat, if there's any affiliation, 4 degrees of separation between you and that individual, get the hell out of that mat. You are not reffing that match.
Right.
We'll get somebody else.
That's good.
So, I mean, I was just talking to Dylan about this. And you probably know Dylan Gower. He got a black belt from Pole. He refs.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
He does a lot of reffing. And he started telling me about, his perspective or his experience being a ref, just doing jiu-jitsu. And I was thinking, this is one of the hardest jobs I can imagine. You're there for 6-7 hours. Imagine you're there 6 hours reffing all day, standing.
Hunchback with
And
your head down.
and then you blink and something happens and you're like, what happened?
And especially just like.
And at the end of the day, usually you have some of the better matches sometimes. And now
Right,
you got to
'cause
really
it's
pay.
the like-
kids are all in the morning, and now you've. So, how hard is it to ref?
Super hard. It's funny because, which I'm still a part of, and I will still continue. And this organization has a very special place in my heart. I do ref for the ADCC, the Abu Dhabi Combat Club, and I've ref for them at the world level.
I've heard that they're very strict. They have very high standards.
I'll give you a perspective of things.
And the
they
training
just
of it, right?
postponed the U.S. trials because they couldn't get the rest of the refs, and they bring these guys from Europe.
Yeah.
But the majority of them are from Finland, and because of the travel restrictions, they could have gone around and do things different way, but they said, no, we'll postpone it.
Yeah.
Can we fill the spots with people from the U.S.? Probably. Are their experience as proficient? No.
Really? So that's
the
a
guy
very.
came out, Mo,
ADC
the guy who's running it, Mo, came out and said,
Yeah.
look, the fact of the matter is there's a couple people I trust in the United States, but to actually do the event, then I need to use these refs, or else the integrity of the event.
And I consider Mo Hassim a friend, and and I asked him, he's like, hey, listen, man, if things get real difficult, we can get guys here in the U.S., guys that I trust.
Yeah.
And he said, nope, if I can get the best of the best, we're not doing it right now.
Really?
We can postpone it. We'll work around it. And all right, done deal. So, that's just how professional and the level, the level that they hold themselves to.
So how do you like?
How do you?
So
get
bottom
into
line,
reffing like
reffing is super freaking hard.
Yeah. Like.
And how do you like? I guess I know this might sound like a rudimentary question, but like, how do you keep track of like, these scenarios where a scramble can happen over the course of a length of time, and
Yeah.
you've got to just remember who the fuck was on top.
Yeah,
and
it's
who
like
the
a
fuck was
volley,
like
right?
stuff like that.
So-
Like, how do you?
Again,
Like, I feel like my short-term memory couldn't do that. You know what I mean?
So this is where like Mo Hassim was talking about, the experience comes into play. You have to be in these scenarios, like still to this day. And again, I do this. Again, I'm a little different, but I do this to stay relevant. I'll watch an IBJJF match, but score it ADCC style. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I'll do that
that's-
on purpose, so I continue to practice.
Because you're scoring under not the worst conditions, but completely different conditions.
On different conditions.
Yeah, and then
different strategy. As an athlete, I can get I can get an advantage and win a match. There's no advantages in ADCC.
Right.
You know, the scoring system is different. The requirements for somebody to actually get awarded the points are different. So, talking about the scrambles, I've reviewed certain scrambles like Muhammad Ali versus Nick Rodriguez at the ADCC.
Oh, God.
Oh,
Yeah.
jeez. Where they're just
That was
sitting there,
insane.
like,
You know? And there were certain things that me as a judge, I would have scored it, or as a ref, I would have handled differently. But that was one of the hardest matches, you know, and Nick Rodriguez versus Cyborg, because of the scrambles, because it's like you got to pay attention, you know, when did the referee say stop? You know, was their foot inside of the line, outside of the line? Who initiated the movement? It's hard, man, but it comes with practice, you know. Nobody ever, you know, you don't come the first day of jiu-jitsu and know how to do, you know, armbar to omoplata to triangle. It takes time to learn that stuff.
do you so as having refed and having promoted and having worn many hats and worked across a lot of different organizations in combat sports, which rule set, I mean, you just kind of mentioned ADCC as having a special place in your heart, but which do you think is the best representation of submission grappling? Of the
Of
purest form?
submission
Oh,
grappling.
here we go. Are we talking about
I'm-
submission grappling or jiu-jitsu?
no,
right?
but
'Cause this is-
I use submission grappling with jiu-jitsu synonymously. To me, grappling's grappling. You want to submit the guy, you want to get position.
yeah.
So, like, just of jiu-jitsu in its purest form.
Submission only.
Submission only.
Of course.
No
No
point for
time
position,
limit.
No time limit,
No
no
point
points.
submission only. That's pure grappling. I mean, that's the original form, and now we're going back. And again, I did this in college. I actually did a paper on the origins of jiu-jitsu, and we're going to date it. Forget about feudal Japan times. We'll go date it back all the way to, you know, India. So, and now we're going to go in. I can go into a tangent, but I don't want to. That's the purest form. If we eliminate submission grappling as in submission only thing, for me, ADCC rules, you know, again, no gi is that's it. That's where it's at.
So isn't the dilemma then primarily that we're taking something and turning it into a spectator event that's essentially ADCC is a promotion, you know?
Correct.
So to make something enjoyable for the viewer, you have to impose a rule set that, because if you have a no time limit submission only match,
it would be like
it'd
be like cricket, right? It'd be like lasting 2 weeks long.
Not necessarily, but there will be situations
Yeah.
where they're still going, you know?
Yeah, because I mean, yeah.
Unless they're going to make the ring shrink on them. Like, they'll make it smaller.
Start letting crocodiles and gators out. You know, but here's the thing. It really boils down to the individual, you know? I think, you know, submission only on a 10-minute match type thing or 15-minute match, it's okay. But it depends on the individual because, yes, let's be honest, some matches in any rule set can become extremely effing boring, you know? I know guys that, man, dude, I if they tell me this guy's competing, I was like, Jesus Christ, really? Do you need me to rep this?
That's easy to score then, right? Like,
Because, well, they usually tend to be easier to score, but then I'll be honest, man, your mind starts to wander.
You're like,
and like you said earlier, you can blink and miss something. So
Oh, that's
I
true,
don't
yeah.
want that to happen. So you gotta it's mentally draining because you gotta put yourself. It's like, yeah, it's only 10 minutes. Yeah, it's
But
only
you're
10
forcing
minutes
yourself to
all
engage.
day since 9 o'clock in the
Oh, yeah,
morning,
absolutely.
and it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon now. You know, so.
So what is your preference, just for you, what do you enjoy practicing more, gi jiu-jitsu or no gi jiu-jitsu?
Gi.
You prefer the gi.
Now,
yes.
100%.
100%.
Now,
No. But when you were younger, you were a no gi guy.
I could care less.
You
I
could
just
care-
I just wanted to
You
train.
just want to train and stuff.
Yeah, it just, and I'm a little old school, so it's one of the, you know, I when I came up through the ranks, it's one of those things you have to train with the gi to get better
Sure.
at no gi.
Sure.
Now that I'm older and I have a different opinion and I've looked at things a little different. No, you don't need to train with the gi to be better at no gi. You just need to do more no gi.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but for my personal preference, yeah, man, give me my show your old gi on and let's go.
That's awesome. All right, so as we kind of close things down.
Non-pay commercial.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
I'm
If
cool
you
with
guys
that.
are
Yeah,
interested
yeah,
in,
absolutely.
like I'm an A2, Noah's an A2
Yeah.
also. I mean,
So what's his deal with Paul getting a black belt?
Yeah,
and getting a black
a
belt?
double black belt here?
Man, I don't know if he wants me to talk about that.
No, we got this. He can always edit it out.
I can cut this out.
Just tell the
I
story.
left
Tell
it
the
for
story.
the end, and then
We can always
So-
edit. Let's
so
hear it.
Paul and Dean.
So hang on. Let me give you some context. This is what I'm aware of, and I think that's this is like the story. So then you can know where I'm coming from, and then you can be like insert what you know.
Go.
My understanding is that Paul was belted from white to brown under Marcio here in Orlando, and had served the time and was close to getting his black belt, but then opted to go to ATT down Coconut Creek to train. And at that point, Liborio said, "I don't know you, so it's going to take at least 3 years before I consider giving you a black belt." And at that point, Paul was training. He was an MMA fighter. He didn't care. He's like,
Ran
I'm a
several
fighter,
academies. Yeah.
And then time went by, and he got promoted by Liborio. So that's the story I currently have in my head. So continue. Oh man, I put on my.
Oh
seatbelt.
yeah. Get comfy. Yeah, get in Chris position here. Here you go.
You have partial parts
Okay,
of
here
that
we
story,
go.
right? So, yeah, man. There's
We'll have to get Paul's blessing, but go on.
And that's why I left it for the end.
Yeah, exactly.
so I think Paul fought at this event. I'm not sure. I think Dean cornered him. Man, I'm throwing some old school names here. Rich Crunkleton.
Hang on.
Chris knows.
Like Crazy Richie?
Rich
I know Rich.
Cleat
Yeah,
Crunkleton.
I know.
There's only one. He's got another little brother, the little Crunkleton.
Well, I know Rich, but
So, Rich Crunkleton, Charles Crazy Horse Bennett. So, I mean, these are guys that are staple, true old school dudes in the MMA scene in Florida. And we were at the Silver Spurs dirt floor, and it was an MMA event in a ring. 4 3-rope ring. And during the event, what's Ross?
Kellen, Champions MMA.
Yeah, Ross Kellen and Jamie Levine were partners.
In a company
In-
called Rival.
Yeah, they were partners in business and in an academy as well. And Jamie gets in the ring and calls Dean and Paul out, and did a little speech and wrapped a black belt.
Wait,
Jiu-Jitsu black belt around
at the event?
at the event.
It's weird.
That happens. Hey, people get promoted at events all the time.
He wasn't or they weren't his students, were they?
I don't know. Ask him.
It's
Ask Paul.
okay.
Facts. I saw this.
I believe what you saw. Yeah.
But I then after that I do remember Dean came down, and again I have more direct relationship and interaction with Dean than I did with Paul at the time, because Paul would come down for the weekend
because Paul was at
right.
Marcy. That's right.
So and he would come down and do some of the MMA sparring training and whatnot, and but then I do remember seeing Dean with a brown belt. I was like, okay, whatever.
Wait, I saw him.
Right. But again, you have to understand, it's like, and I more than not, it probably was a thing of respect. And if there were, if Paul was training with Simas, because again, Simas he's the grandfather
Oh,
of
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Jiu-Jitsu
he's
Absolutely.
in
yeah.
Orlando.
Absolutely.
There's no dispute to that. He's been here the longest. And, so yeah, again, I don't know if Paul did train with, with Professor Simas and if he got his brown belt with Simas, but I did witness
Someone putting a black.
Somebody. putting a black belt around his waist.
How about that?
But that also speaks quite a bit about Paul, right? Like that he's
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
that
He
he's-
says he realizes is the validity,
his integrity
and the
and
truth
what-
to it.
yeah,
and taking the criticism, because there's certain level of criticism of man, I don't know what you bring to the table, and now as a black belt and promoting somebody else to black belt, I hold those individuals to higher standards than anybody else.
Sure.
Because in my personal opinion, in order for you to have a black belt, it's not only about a technical level. You know, it's got a lot to do with your character.
That's what I've always said, and you can tell me if this is a fair assessment, that a big component of it is the professor needs to be able to be comfortable to say, I vouch for this person.
Absolutely, 100%.
You know, it's not just this person's a badass on the mat.
Right.
It's I need to vouch for him.
Right.
You know.
And
if not, go somewhere else and get a black belt.
That's right. You know, and I actually told someone, I said, no, man, I'm not giving you.
Yeah.
And this was not a black belt. It was a brown belt. And I said, no, man, I'm not giving you a brown belt. You know, I vouch for other
so even
people.
for brown belt, you feel that way?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Man, you're a brown belt. There's a certain level of responsibility that comes along with that. You know, a good friend of mine, his name is Tim Sled. He's a Andre Galvão black belt from Indiana. He's actually an attorney. And we both have the same theory. So we see it as, you know, as an academic growth, but also human growth. Your white belt is when you're at elementary school level. Your blue belt, you had just moved to middle school. Purple belt, you're in high school. Brown belt, you have your collegiate degree. And black belt, you just earn your doctorates. You know, and part of earning your doctorate's degree is that you have to have letters of reference as character reference.
Correct.
So, you know, in order to have that black belt, that you have to have certain character
Now,
references.
another story I heard, which I really liked, and it's the only time I've heard it. So I was wondering if you've because you were down there, so this might have been common practice down there. But Paul said that when Liborio was considering him for promotion, he sent him to a number of other black belts to train with them.
Yeah.
So he would get them saying like,
Their
their
input.
input on it.
100%.
A peer
that-
review.
That was part, again, you know, it kind of happened.
And
by
I thought of
proxy.
that just for that very reason. You
Like
said
a
when
peer
you're in college,
review,
you
right?
have a, you know, you have
You
a,
can defend your
you
paper.
defend your thesis
Right,
in
you
front
have
of a
to
number,
defend your
but not
thesis.
just your guy, but a number of people.
Right, and that's kind of like, again, you know, Liborio was not able to attend my official promotion because he had some other commitments. But, you know, there were like 7 or 8 different black belts there. And I didn't understand, man, why do I have to train with these guys today?
You're like,
beat
man,
up,
not
I'm
today.
tired." I had just loaded a 30-foot truck full of stuff from a storage unit. I'm beat up. And I'm like, all right, man, let's do it, you know? But yeah, he did that. And, you know, and actually one of the things is we had, and to be honest with you, I don't do it, but we used to have a test. I know we do it for other belts, for color belts, but an actual test where I'm asking you questions where you have to verbally answer or demonstrate it technically proficient to me. Show me a 3 combination guard pass where there's got to be 3 definitive combination of a guard pass.
Response,
maybe
guard pass, response. Yeah.
Right. You
Counter
know?
to the
or
counter
show
to the
me,
counter.
or show
Yeah.
me a 3 combination ending with the arm bar. And it has to be proficient. It can't, you know, a 3 combination
It's gotta be
submission.
smooth. It's gotta be,
got to
yeah.
be proficient. Like, you know, you're doing XYZ thing first. That's going to lead to a response that you're going to do to your plan
Yeah.
B. That is going to lead to another, to plan C. And then you finally get submission. And that's something that we did. I still do it for certain belts, you know, certain things. But character, it's heavy, man.
Yeah.
It's real. Again, for me, and most of the black belts that I know, people that I respect, Rafael Rebelo, Pajumpiña, you know, Rafael Diaz, Liborio himself, character is a big component. You know, Ailton Barbosa, who's the head instructor at the Maid Academy for the regular classes, character is a big deal, man.
Yeah.
How many black belts have you awarded?
2.
2
I've only awarded 2 black
in 10
belts.
years.
In the time, actually, I've been a black belt for...
Oh, I apologize for
Yeah.
the length of your academy. I mean, like
Yeah,
Yeah.
For the length of my academy, yes, only 2.
And 2.
Dan Hornbuckle and Dustin Parrish.
and they they're homegrown.
Hornbuckle was not homegrown.
Why is that name sound familiar?
He
Is
fought
he-
in Bellator.
That's what I'm saying, like,
a bunch
he's
of
a
times.
pro fighter,
He
right?
fought in Japan a bunch of times. Yeah, and he was the number 1 contender in Bellator.
Yeah.
At one point, he was pound for pound. I'm not pound for pound, but welterweight. He was top 10 in the world.
That's awesome.
So, you know, Hornbuckle is a tough guy, great guy, you know, a good, solid friend. And Dustin Parrish is actually my guy that currently runs all the classes at American Top Team of Indianapolis now. And again, another solid guy. He was a good D2 wrestler. Should have been D1, but it just for some reason he decided to go D2. And he was. I inherited him when he was a fresh blue belt.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, he's gotten every belt with me.
Are you I mean, you travel between 2 states on the regular, and
Yes.
now you're working with B2,
Yes.
traveling to potentially Houston and
Yeah.
to Texas and whatnot. How often are you able to get on the mats and train yourself, or are you just kind of have
Not
to
as much
instruct?
as I like.
Yeah.
I mean, again, guys, I live 5 minutes from here. And you guys see me. I've been here.
Yeah, you're yeah.
4 or 5 times. I've been to Patino's place maybe twice.
I saw you went to Glenn's the other day.
I went to Glenn's
Yeah.
once. I love that guy. He's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's it. He and
Glenn is
Sam.
one of those people that if you don't like him, there's probably something wrong with
you.
you.
Yeah. There's something wrong with
You
you for sure. Yeah, like he and Sam are.
Yeah,
Awesome.
they're awesome. But again, between my regular job and doing all this other stuff with B2 grappling and refereeing and the academy in Indiana, I try to get mat time as much as I can. And again, Dad, now my daughter's on a swim team and she started to compete more, and that also takes a toll, and her practices are now like 2-3 hours long, and it's challenging.
Oh, yeah.
But I gotta find the time.
But you always come back to jiu-jitsu. That's the awesome
Always,
part.
man, always. And this is what's interesting. Kayla Harrison, who's
Judo.
Olympic gold medalist judoka. She trains at American Top Team for her MMA fights now. When she retired from officially, doing judo, she said something that, hit to heart with me. And she says, "Judo, I love you, but I got to break up with you." And it just,
Wow.
the rules have changed so much, and the politics have evolved to something that is just not conducive to what I experienced for judo, And I still love judo. I enjoy it, but there's nothing gentle about judo.
Yeah, that's.
The judo's rough, man. My knees are shot. My fingers are crooked and shot, and it's just. I still like it though. You
Yeah.
can do foot sweeps, a lot of foot sweeps, but it's
Yeah,
but
it's definitely not
I
gentle.
go back to
It's-
jiu-jitsu every time as much as I can.
Really.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. Well, dude, we've gone a solid hour and a half. We got class getting ready out
Yeah,
here.
we got it.
Carlos, thank you so much for the time.
No, man, my
quick
pleasure,
shout out
guys.
It's
again.
been an
Like,
absolute pleasure.
so-
But go ahead and please plug B2 again, the event, where people can find it. Just
And
as
where
we
can
close out.
people find you?
Guys, people can find me on Instagram, Carlos Diaz. My handle is
I have
at-
to look at
Los
at
Diaz.
Los Diaz 2531.
There we go.
Facebook, Carlos Diaz. I think there's about 3 million of us out there, but I'm the only one with a gi and the American Top Team logo behind it. And b2grappling.com is our website. Where the registration is already open on smoothcomp.com. And the event is going to be on November 14th at the Florida Mall Convention Center.
Okay.
So register now. We're going to get you matches.
$55
even
bucks, you
even
can't
if I
beat
have
that.
to put the gi on and let you beat me up.
That's awesome. Well, Carlos, thank you so much. We
Thank you,
appreciate it.
guys. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on.